my God, they don't just view equality as oppression, they view it as condescension. And I think that this is an important distinction to make. This is the comment that made me realize this. This is also what makes it so difficult for them to build community with one another and to support each other. I think the difference is important, right? Because oppression isn't a feeling. You either are oppressed or not. Oppression is also not something that happens to an individual. It's something you can experience the effects of as an individual. However, you can feel condescended to, and that is something that can happen to you as an individual, that can be done to you specifically as an individual. That more properly describes the emotional experience. When we use the phrase feeling oppressed, it's more tongue-in-cheek. Now, the reason I bring up this comment is not because it's unique, but because it is so typical, and it's always bugged me. Like, I have seen it expressed over and over again, right? And the interaction is often some form of like a man saying like, we are lonely, we are overworked, we are isolated, we are unhappy. And someone else saying, yes, we are too. And that man taking that, yes, we are too, as condescension. Now, obviously, there can be and often is like a level of minimization to an interaction like that, where someone is like, hey, this is something I'm struggling with, and other people are like, hey, that's something a lot of people or everyone struggles with. However, that sort of exchange is also often the basis or start to community building. Someone saying, hey, I have this experience, and people being like, hey, you're not alone. Like, the entire Me Too movement, for example, is based on this idea of people saying like, hey, me too, me too, me too. Your experience is not isolated. Hey, we share this experience. This is a collective group experience. And that was not an act of minimization, but rather an act of community building and unifying. Now, the idea that equality is viewed through lenses like this isn't surprising, right? A hierarchy by definition is just a series of zero-sum games. And this isn't exclusive to men, of course. Like, we have a lot of discourse about like trauma Olympics and whatnot, but the higher you are to that top of the hierarchy, the more you're going to experience equality of resources as oppression. And as a result, we often feel the same way about equality of pain. But ironically, this is the utmost vicious cycle, right? This is late stage patriarchy. The more isolated these men feel, the more they reach out to build community, the more they feel condescended to and oppressed by those around them. So this just pushes them further and further into that isolation. Ironically, they want help and support, but not to be related to, especially not by anyone lower on that hierarchy. But how do we help and support someone, especially when their issues stem from a power structure and they are above you on that power structure? And how can they expect us to help when they view us relating and understanding their issues as condescension? We literally cannot help them until they first decide to fix that understanding and work to correct it. Until then, they're just asking us to help them and to see them, but every time we do, they view it as an insult and they reject it, further pushing us away.